Hello, it's Mio and welcome to this Paint With Me video where I'll be painting this Raven Nun, and we start with a little bit of a cat disturbance, but it is okay. He was safely escorted off the premises, aka put into my lap, where he took a little nap. So it's been about a year since I painted last, and the last painting that I did was also a bird, because I did a whole bird series of different birds doing different things, you know, like a parrot jester and a sheriff pigeon and so on and so forth. And I kind of wanted to continue that series now that I have vacation and have some free time to enjoy some nice creative activities such as this one. The ankle is a little bit weird here in the beginning. I do fix it later because I'm kind of holding the painting, and then I decide to put this stick thing that I don't remember the name of to hold the painting up so that I can see it better, because when it's laying flat I had a hard time seeing properly what I'm doing, and there's also a window right in front of me making this kind of weird lighting, which just made it really hard to paint. So that's why I'm holding it here. I don't have to hold it anymore later on in this video, because then I am painting a little bit lower on the painting, meaning that, yeah, it works a little better. So this ankle is a little bit weird. Bear with me here, it's gonna get better. And it's also zoomed in very much, or not zoomed in, I'm really close to the camera here. So it keeps zooming out, it keeps focusing on my fingers instead of the painting, which is a little bit annoying, and it's a little bit shaky. But again, I do fix that. So the materials I am using is acrylic paint on a canvas. I have already painted a underpainting or a layer of color underneath in purple and pink, because I really enjoy these kind of mystical colors in the background. And I also wanted to use these kind of colors on the painting itself, so it just fit very well to have them underneath. I used a white marker to sketch because it works really well on the purple background and sticks out very well. And then here I am painting the face. As you can see, I have been painting it for a while now. And it is, in my opinion, always the most fun part of any painting, because I just love painting bird faces and I feel like I get better every time. Ravens in particular I find really fun to paint or draw, because I've also drawn them before, because of how dark they are. They are so black that I feel like I have some creative freedom, or that it looks really good when the feathers kind of have another highlight to them, like a little bit of blue or a little bit of purple. So that was really fun in my opinion. I like those mystical colors in there, and I think it brings it very much to life. And I also decided to make the eye kind of fit it, so the eye is going to be a little bit more purple. And yeah, then I add a lot of different feather textures with this tiny little brush and tiny little brush strokes. I made the underside of the face, which was a lot brighter before, a lot darker, because the light I want to be coming from a halo on the top of her head. There's also going to be other light sources, that's why the light source is a little bit different on the beak than it maybe is for the rest of it. Here I am pretty much finished with the face already. The only thing that I'm missing is maybe a little bit of an eye shine, which I add in later. And now it's time for the clothes. The tricky thing here is that the clothes and the color of the raven are pretty much the same. So how do I differentiate it? I decided to add a little bit more of a blue color into the clothing. And I will of course be having, or the texture of the clothes is going to be completely different. And I decided to not add any purple into it whatsoever, because I feel like that would add way too much of the same colors that the face has. Here I am painting in the white part of the clothing, and here I shaded with some black for the most part for the shadows and also for some of the wrinkles in there. And then later on I also add in some blue and purple, and here I let myself add these two colors in even though they're in the face, because the raven does not have any white colors on it, so it's not gonna be blending into the face or anything like that. Wings are always something that I struggle with when I draw birds, but here I try to keep it quite simple. I add the same colors that I have in the face, so a little bit of that purple color, a little bit of that blue color, and then the wings have layers. So you have like the long feathers on the bottom, then you have like a layer of these smaller, or like a row almost of these smaller feathers, which I'm trying to add here. I made them a little bit lighter in the beginning before I shade them with purples and blues to kind of differentiate them from the other feathers. So then after that, I add a little bit more of those highlights and also remove the cat again. And this happens a lot more in these videos that I try to cut out, but some of them are just kind of in there still. Yeah, I shade the rest of the feathers. I go a little bit back and forth because I felt like the lighter feathers were a little bit too light and I wanted the wings to pop out a little bit more. So a little bit more color on that before moving on to remove the cat again. He is a little bit of a nuisance. He also tried to drink the paint water about 3 times during this process and walked over my painting and spread paint all over everywhere. But he's cute, so he gets away with it. It is fine. Here it is time to make that row of feathers pop a little bit more and make them a bit cleaner. So I use black to kind of shade underneath them and around them. So I'm kind of adding a little bit of a line art, as well as darkening underneath the feathers to create a little bit of a shadow so that these feathers make a little bit more sense and kind of like make it more clear that they are actually sitting on top of the other feathers. My reference photos show that the crow wings actually have about 3 rows of these kind of smaller feathers, so I added the next row with a little bit of a lighter color again so that they pop out a little bit better and it is easier for me to shade them and form them accordingly. Here we are skipping forward a little bit and we are working on the legs, and I use some black paint. Not much to say about this really. I make them a little bit fluffy. Here it was time for the feet. The feet are always fun, so I'm using gray because they have gray feet. And I start with just like a basic layer of gray, and then I add some black, not really line art, but they seem to have like this black almost scale-like feature, or maybe like wrinkles or something in that direction. So I added a lot of tiny little black lines as well as highlights in the middle to make them look a lot more 3-dimensional, so they look a little bit more tube-like, if you will. And then I do the same with the toes. So gray underlayer, black on top, black nails, and I also have to have a little bit of black underneath as well for a little bit of shadow. So I do that as well. And I kind of felt like I had to line them a little bit as well, so I did that as well, because otherwise they just look like blobs. So here I'm just repeating that process. So the idea of making a raven nun has been something that I've actually been thinking about for, well, ever since last year when I was making these other paintings. And I don't 100% remember where I got the idea, but I think maybe I was brainstorming and my mom gave me this idea or this prompt, because crows and ravens are usually kind of like these dark birds that are not really very Christian, if that makes sense. They are usually more negative, which is really sad because I think they're really beautiful birds. They're often tied to bad luck and superstitions and such. So I wanted to make that bird, you know, that is not really connected to religion at all, and, or if it is in a negative sense, and make it Christian and a little bit biblical. So I wanted to mix a raven with a nun, and then I wanted to do like the wings are supposed to look like they are kind of praying, And then I also had this idea to have these rosary pearls, I hope I'm saying this correctly, around, or like she's holding them, you know, to pray. And then also, this was actually not planned. I was just sitting there looking at a painting and I was like, I need something on the bottom of this painting. So I'm painting the Bible, or it is a black book. You can kind of, would assume that it was a Bible, right? But you can put your own interpretations into this, that is fine. And then I wanted to add some old school melted candles to it as well, to add a little bit more details. I'm not 100% happy with the Bible, I have to say. The candles I think turned out fine though, but books are just not my thing. So I did not record when I painted the background, but it is pretty much just a nice purple color on top. And then for the bottom, where the book is, like kind of the floor, I guess, is this kind of pink magenta color. These are both colors that I have used for this painting already, and they were already in the background beforehand, and I really like them. So I decided to just make them a little bit darker and more dramatic, because I wanted to make a halo and I wanted the halo to shine. So therefore the background has to be a little bit darker. And for the halo, I start with just making the background around the head a little bit lighter. So I just pretty much just mix this white color in with it. And then I'm gonna be trying to kind of, make it lightest at the center or like above the head, and then it's gonna be fading out further out it goes, pretty much. And I will be painting it into a more yellow color. As you can see here, I've already done a light yellow wash, and then I add an even lighter white color around it with some pretty clear brush strokes, because I feel like that adds a little something something. But that is pretty much it for this painting. Here is a final view of the whole thing. I am honestly really happy with it. And I've already started another bird painting, so look forward to that. I hope you liked this video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you again next week. Goodbye.